of rough. I know. Really cold here. There's not a whole lot of incentive to shave. But I gotta get back on this thing. And I think I'm just gonna double check. I got my push rods. We've mocked up all this rocker arm stuff. And I think I better start by pulling this head, and I'm gonna double check piston to valve clearance with a little bit of Play-Doh in there and measure it. That's the way I do it. I mean, I already have tightened the valves down a little too much, running through a cycle. It seems all good. I believe I have more than 100 thousandths on both, but I'm going to just double check it because I don't want to make a mistake on this thing. So I'm going to do that, and then we've got to pull heads back off, and I'm going to put the new valve springs in. We've got a proper heavier valve spring. Plus the ones that come with these Pro Max heads, I kind of like the heads. I don't really like the valve springs. I've had them on the dyno before, and you can just see every pull, the RPM comes down, 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 down. So I'll put the pack springs in it, and they're made for the hydraulic roller, so I have the right spring tension. And then I'll put the MLS gaskets in it. Right now I've just got the stock style gasket in it just for mock-up. And, you know, we'll just try and paint the block, I guess, and finish it up. We're getting pretty close. So this is just standard Play-Doh, kids Play-Doh. And I put some in here in the valve pockets on these pistons. Now there are a few different ways to do this. With a valve ejector spring and a dial indicator, you can do it. "10 degrees before and 10 degrees after, top dead." You can check. But this stuff is live, it's in there. I can see it. I kind of like this method. Just throw that in there, bolt the head back on. I'm not going to go nuts here on torque. I'll just snug them. If I see something that's a little scary and close, I may come back and torque everything properly and really double check it. If I think, you know, we're kind of in that range where it's an issue. I don't think we're even close, so I'm not going to really do too much here. Other than just snug these four down and put the valve train on, we'll see. I mean, if I've got 200 thousandths, so, you know, there's nothing. We're not really going to shrink this gasket very much. The torque thickness on my MLS gasket is about the same as this one, so that's not really going to change anything. This rocker is something I really like, but I can tell you, it has its, like, I had to shim everything on this, and of course it all slides together as a unit. So when you're trying to shim all that, of course you're working, if you're in the middle of it, you need to take a shim out or add a shim, you got to take off that whole side to get to it, which is a pain. Obviously getting these things oriented would seem to want to be a pain. So everything's not perfect with it, but hopefully we won't be doing this very many times. There. But this thing, from the factory ones, I'll bring one over after and show you. The factory ones, you can't adjust anything. You got to change push rods. I don't know how they hold up on the heavier valve spring. They might be strong enough, but I don't like might. Man, this impact is stinking again. I'd say, Snap-on, you ain't hitting it out of the park with your electric tools. They have not been that good. Now my Snap-on guys quit. He's pretty good about taking care of me. So, went to selling garbage cans. Can you imagine? Garbage cans. I mean, big ones, but. So I pick on him about being a garbage can salesman. Because, you know, I care about people and their feelings. I guess he'll pick on me when he shows me the commission check, maybe. I want to run. I should have a set of solid lifters in here to do this, ideally. But since I don't, I'll run these down to the bottom of the cushion. We're going to take a knife and we're going to cut. We're going to cut our Play-Doh in strips and measure it with a vernier. And we'll see what we got. If there's like tons and tons of room, there's no need to go any further with this little proposition. I can end here. If I have questions, may have to do a little something more. And I think this time, to make my life easier, I'm going to leave one stud in this assembly so everything stays rotated. I'll keep that inner shaft indexed to the blocks. And then, easier to put it back on. This is so strange. Next time, before I put the rockers back on, I have to put the intake on, I have to do everything. It's really a different outfit. I can tell you right now, we don't need to worry about this one. The valves hardly even dented the Play-Doh. I will kind of double check for radio clearance, but it's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. Look at that. So we don't really have too much to worry about there. There's no point getting any fussier. So I cut that. I'm going to cut it there on the intake valve and the exhaust valve. and we'll double check, but there's no real need to double check. Look at that. So sometimes I worry about radial clearance, which is the edge of the valve over the pocket. So we have nothing to worry about there, as you can see. You have tons of room. Same as on this one. I mean, we're getting into the range of 250 and 200 there. I'll measure it. We'll check. $298. And actually I'm squeezing it a bit to get down there, so we're in great shape. $189. So, you know, we're in great shape. Exhaust side, you want 100. Intake side, I've moved to 75. I have squeezed the exhaust side down to 90 before, but sometimes you'll see shadowing, which isn't awesome, but they do run like that. The valve doesn't seem to bend, but you will see a little, not an impact mark, but you'll see shadowing on the piston, and really kind of dangerous. Not the ideal situation, but this is awesome. I mean, this is absolutely no worries whatsoever. So we are good to go. So now I'm going to spray this thing down with some thinner, blow it off, tape it off, do all the shit that I have to do to get the short block painted, and then we can assemble it. And, I mean, I said we'll be done. I'm not really going to be done because the intake we have for it sucks, but I have no idea when I'm getting another intake. This FE stuff takes forever. I'm going to bolt it together, I'm going to button it up. We may even run it in, just break the rings in, do a few things. But before we take it to the dyno, which I think we will, before we take it to the dyno, I want to get the new intake. So Steve Dulcich says, if you put automotive clear coat over this, the paint will stay better. For a long time, he says. So if this goes wrong, Steve, this is Steve Dulcich's fault. It'd help if I set my spray gun up, though. We're going to give this a shot, because this one isn't going to go in the car anytime soon. It'll be sitting on a stand where everybody sees it. I would like it to have nice paint. We'll see. Every time we paint these blocks, we clean them to death. We heat them to get all the oil and stuff out of the cast. We use high temp primer. We use every kind of high temp paint. And I wouldn't say the results are stellar. It depends. It seems like some blocks just plain hold paint better than others. We will see what this bad boy does. I always like them to stay nice. I'll paint this thing. I love this rotisserie for this. You can paint it from every angle. Shouldn't have missed spot. When I'm going over some of this stuff, I just barely pull the trigger. Right? not just gas in the paint right to it, so I can kind of stay in one area like this. If I really pull the trigger, it'll lay it right down. When I get in a big open spot, I'll put the paint right to it. I got stuff I'm worried about, I'll just fog it. Well, that's a pretty good little shot of clear on it. Guess we'll see what happens. Let that dry up. While that's drying up, I'll put these heads together, get the new valve springs on, get everything done, and then I go clean my spray gun and be ready for assembly. So we got our MLS gaskets. This is what comes in the kit. This isn't great for the aluminum head. We'll throw the MLS on. Save the stickers for the customer. These things, they're funky. They do work well. We've used them on many applications. The bolts I'm putting sealer on, which you're supposed to put the parking compound on them, but block these threads with big coarse thread, and it's a live bolt, so pretty sure it'll be seeping water. I'm gonna go ahead and just put the sealer on. Sit down over that dowel properly. There. Good. So valve adjustment. Only thing you gotta do is figure out which valve is which, intake and exhaust, on your particular head you're doing. It's like this one, your exhaust is on these two facing the front, and on the back, it's these two facing the rear. So just keep that in mind. Keep in mind where your intake is. You turn the motor over, and I'm going to watch. I think the intake valve is going. So I'm going to run the intake valve all the way down and almost back up. When it gets back up close to the top, I can do the exhaust valve. So my exhaust valve, I need to have, I want to get that push rod turning. I want to make sure it spins freely. I'm going to get down there to where I can feel it starting to put pressure on. And I'm going to give it a half a turn of preload, because this is a hydraulic lifter. So once you got a little cushion of oil there, you just want to preload into that little cushion of oil. So that one's done. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to watch for the exhaust to just start down, and then the intake's at the base of it. So check, make sure I don't have any preload. And then I'm going to do half turn. Set my check nut. And go to the next one. So this one's exhaust. So exhaust is just starting down. I can do intake. This one's really loose. So there, I'm down there snug. And we'll go half turn. That's a piece of crap Chinese wrench. So now the intake. So we're going to run the intake all the way down, almost back to the top, and the exhaust is at base circle. The intake's off the bottom, it's coming up, it's right at the top. We're going to do this one. We'll slack this off, make sure everything turns free, and then Oh, my check nut's in the way. Everything's free there. It's preload. After. Some people do 3/4 turn. I don't really care for it. A lot of times I find that it'll hold the valves open, especially on a fresh job like this. The oil pressure will come up, lifter will pump up. So, this is the intake. It's already started down. I'm going to run the intake to the bottom. It's almost, there, the intake valve is almost closed. So this exhaust valve is ready to do. And I just keep fiddling around here to see where my ash, where it starts to snug up. When I say snug up, the push rod doesn't spin freely anymore. And that is what I'm calling my place to preload. So, intake's done. We're going to do exhaust. We're going to run that intake all the way down. Or pardon me, the exhaust just starting down, so we did the intake. Have a look, see which one we did. So then, push rod spinning free. I turn that down just easy. I'm not putting any pressure on the screw. And you feel that push rod tighten up. Half a turn. Now on a hydraulic deal like this, you can just run both valves, so they're up and loose and set them. I know a lot of guys do it and they get away with it fine. I've had occasions where they'll rattle and carry on, especially with a roller rocker. So you take the time and do it like this, you'll never have a sound. So that's why. Now if you're going to do this with a mechanical, you're going to go, or a solid, you're going to go through the same exact procedure, just slide your feeler in when you can to the base circle. Especially with a solid cam, you won't get a good setup if you don't do this. All right, so exhaust is just started down. So I do my intake. So that one had some preload on it. So there, after. Oh, you crappy wrench. All right, now, one more to go on this side. So, I'm gonna run intake all the way open, almost back closed, and I can do the exhaust. Make sure to back that off far enough. You know that lifter's all the way up because that will pump up. And then it's snug there, half a turn. And that is that. It's a pretty accurate valve adjustment like that. About as accurate as you're going to get it. The Ford motor's done. Got to put a few like spark plugs, a couple small accessories, but it's done. Now considering this whole thing looked like this everywhere, that's how the inside of the cylinders looked and everything else in this block. It's pretty darn nice. Came out like a new one. Pretty happy with this job. Different kind of an engine to do for me. A really different kind of an engine. I do have the new intake coming, but I'm going to put everything together now, and I want everything sealed up and nice and tight, so it's the best way to do it. But we will we'll get our new single plane at some point, and we don't have the car yet, so it'd be good to go. The big bad 428 is done. Pretty happy with this unit. So, Pro Max heads, comp roller cam, pretty healthy specs. I think I gave the specs somewhere else in one of the other videos. She's all decked out. All decked out, ready to go. I'm pretty happy with this one. Pretty excited to see this one run, actually. I'm curious to see what it'll make for power. It's a little different design on heads than that I'm used to working with. I mean, normally, this would be a safe 500 plus. But these FEs, I don't really have any experience with them on the dyno and stuff, so very curious. Waiting for that new single plane intake before we do that, though. And I don't know how long that's going to be, because this thing is a turd. I mean, the runners on it are way small for the heads and everything, so it's just, it's got to go. I put it in place because I want to seal the motor up, but it's not going to stay there. Please believe me. But I got to pull it off the stand, put the cam plug in, and, you know, put some plugs in it. And it's ready to rock. Go back to the customer. This engine looked like this inside when we started. She was pretty rough. Pistons came out of it in pieces. So, pretty nice little accomplishment to have her done.